Okay, welcome to week 6, module 6. As you guys get started, I am just starting to review your part 1 of this project, your menu design inside. So keep going on to week 6 as I am doing that. And once you get feedback from me this week on your part 1, make those necessary changes as you're also designing part 2, which would be your covers and your back covers. All right, so let's go forward here. So basically what we're going to be doing this week, again, is completing your front cover and back cover. Here is the assignment if you guys need to read more about the, actually there's just talks about the assignment, that's where you submit it. The checklist basically is what you should be looking at and following whenever you're creating your menu covers. So in design only, create cover and back cover, add required text to cover and back cover. Text is found in chosen restaurant menu.docs document, and that's in your assets folder. You're going to add the restaurant logo that you chose, and it should be in there in the folder as well. Place images, minimum 1, maximum 4, and you can find them on these links here. You can get free images. Use define color theme from week 5. You want it to be, consistent in color from the front to the back. And export all pages as high quality PDF and submit your final for grading. All right, so let's go ahead and also before we get started with your demo, don't forget that you also have a discussion this week that you will be required to post to. And basically this is talking about the importance of creating visual hierarchy in your menu cover design. So how can you use the principles of design to create visual hierarchy in your menu cover design? So think about color. Think about all the elements in design and how you're going to use hierarchy, how you're going to implement that to create a specific order to your cover, your inside, and your back. So menu cover design specifically for this discussion. So how are you going to create order to that? Okay. You're going to probably have to go, not probably, you will have to go to your week 5 to grab that menu assets folder right here. So go back to week 5 if you haven't downloaded everything here. This contains everything you'll need for the cover as well as the inside. So go ahead and download that and let's get started. So I'm just going to do a real quick demo. Hopefully it won't be too long for you guys to get started this Monday on your projects. And then we'll meet tomorrow for open office hours. So if you have any questions, we can go over that in the office hours. All right. Now I'm just continuing it from the last time that we met last week. I created the second page and the third page, and I am doing the walk client. So I would find the assets folder for that. So I'm going to go ahead and open that walk info. Share my folder because you see the assets folder. So you have the Great Steak, the Pizza Bella, and the walk. So I'm going to do the walk. So I see that there's images in there that I've already placed on the inside, which is good. I can see that I have an AI file of the logo, a checklist, and this is, again, one of the most important parts is your document for your wording. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up specifically here. And I'm going to, what I would suggest is open up your, the logo file in Illustrator. So just open up Illustrator. I'm going to have to open my program up here. I forgot about that. So give me 1 second. Go ahead and double click on that. Open it up in Illustrator. We're going to get the logo ready to go here. Okay, so this is in Illustrator, and it's important to know that you do logos in Illustrator because it's a vector-based program. It's not pixel dependent, meaning you can blow this logo up as bigger than a billboard, and it will never ever look pixelated or blurry because it's working off of mathematical equations and lines and points to create this vector-based design. So that's the reason why designers use Illustrator. So you'll never, ever should have that problem. All right, so we open it up in Illustrator, and what we're going to do is we're going to export it out as, so file export. And I'm just going to put it in that folder. Actually, I'm going to put it on my desktop because I don't even know if I put that folder in there. And I'm going to export it as a PNG file. And I'm going to hit export. Now, this is the important part. Pay attention to your options here. So you want it to be high resolution, so 300 pixels per inch. We can ignore the high optimized type, type optimized, hinted is fine. Transparent is what we want to make sure we're selecting. That way we don't have this white box importing into our InDesign file. So click OK for transparent. That's going to save it onto, that's going to save it into your folder or wherever you saved it at. When you're done saving it as PNG file, now you can place this in. So I'm now in InDesign, and I'm going to go File, Place. Actually, not that, sorry. I'm thinking I'm in Illustrator. I'm going to take the rectangular frame tool, how we import images, and then we're going to go File, Place. I'm going to go to my desktop here. Hold on one second. Where is my desktop? Oh, there it is. Boom. All right, and then you're going to find that PNG file that you saved, and you're going to hit place. Now, if I didn't save it as a PNG file with transparent background, it's going to show white behind here. So you'll actually see this. Some colors here, which you don't want because you want it to be versatile. It'll look like that. So you don't want that. You don't want that fill to be white. Okay. That's the reason why we did this. So we can bring this in and we can put it on whatever background and it's going to work. Okay. The next thing I would do is go ahead and peruse through. I like Pixabay for my website for pictures. I just use it a lot, but feel free to use the other two if you need to. And then I'm going to look up some textures, and I already have that wooden texture that I can implement in there. So that's a good thing. I can use that. I can use up other, let's see, black textures too. Textures are nice because you can use those as, I think I downloaded this one before, so I can reuse that if I want. But textures are nice because they give a tactile, well, they look like they give a tactile feel. They're not actually tactile unless you buy the paper has that tooth to it. But it gives it a special element that's just, it's not, if you don't use a texture and use just like a black solid color, that's okay. But the texture kind of gives it a more dynamic feel. All right, so let me go ahead and try to figure out if I could pick something similar to that wooden background where it's just a little bit different. And this image should relate to your brand, color, everything. Let me put in black wood textures. That's kind of cool. I'm just looking for something that would work really well with my inside. Now I can always just use that texture that I use on the inside on the outside as well. I'm just trying to pick something that's maybe slightly different, but unifies. Let's see. That's kind of interesting. It's kind of like bark. You go ahead and download that. And I'm going to place this I'm going to place it on my desktop, but place it in your folder, create a folder for your project. Obviously, if you haven't already, keeps it all together. And then I'm going to go back into my InDesign. Now I could just copy what like I said, on the inside. That's kind of the best way to do it, using that same see, that same picture so that you're keeping that cohesiveness. And I just want to show you how I could use another image too, so that you know it doesn't have to be the same image. It just should be cohesive. But I could use the same image. So I'll show you how it would look if I did that. Okay. Now, if I didn't want to use this image and say I want to place that one that I did place in, I'm going to put the image, kind of just bleed off all the sides there. Actually doesn't look too bad. Boom, there you go. Now, so you could do something like that. It's cohesive, it has that dark quality to it. The only thing is my logo is really hard to see here. So I would need more contrast. So that's something I would want you guys to be aware of. And there's different ways that you can kind of deal with that. You can, the logo here is kind of big, so I'm going to make it smaller. It doesn't have to be huge, by the way, on your cover. We're going to go with a more understated look because maybe this is more of an expensive restaurant. So the understated is, you know, you're not blowing things up and making it, you know, too crazy. It's kind of more silent when you look at it. It's you know, type smaller, the logo's smaller. There we go. Okay. So I know I need more contrast. I know this is you know, really hard to read here. So there's a couple of tricks that you can do if you're in the same position. I think I showed you this before. You could definitely do like a fill where, and it's already getting dark and light, but let's do a whole big rectangle around here. And we're going to fill it with black. Fill it with rich black. There we go. And then I'm going to put a gradient on it. And the gradient, oh, not this gradient, sorry, should be the, I forget what this is called, gradient feather tool. I lost my black. Okay. And you can make it where, you know, it's getting darker in certain areas so that your logo pops a little bit more. Now, the logo needs to be up front because we're talking about like this laying over it. So I have to bring the front. But you can see now how this is easier to see. Okay. Let me hide my guide so you guys can see what that looks like. Over print preview. There we go. So it could be as simple as that. Just make sure my box is all the way out so it's showing the whole logo. I do think there's wording under here though. It's kind of hard to see. Yes, there's wording. So, you know, making sure that that's readable is super, super important. It's not very readable right now. It's actually really hard to read. Let me delete all this. And it seems like only on white it's going to work. So maybe we go the other direction where this becomes white. So let me do that instead of filling it with black. Now, the only difference with that is, you know, it's going to take away from that dark look, but I just want to show you how I would do that. And then feather. Oops. Something like that. Okay. There we go. So you could see now that it's easier to see. Now I can always play around with the opacity of that white. So maybe it's not as 100%, like something like that. It's kind of nice. So you can still read the, you know, the logo tagline. It's very thin font and it's in like a darker, like a neutral dark color. So it's hard to read. But you definitely can see how that definitely works a little bit better. All right. And then we want to make sure we have all the assets, all the information in that Word document. We want to open up that Word document in your assets folder. Oops, not that. Let me get rid of this. It should be a Word document. Oh, I've got so many windows open right now. It's Try to keep track. Okay, I got it. I got it. I'm going to share my screen. So I just opened up my Word document that was in the assets folder, and I can see in there what I need on the front cover and on the back cover. Okay. And then I see that it has to be in the specific fonts. So make sure you're applying that too. So this is basically the information on the cover I need to copy. This is the information on the back cover, and it needs to be in the Terrafins Light font. So I'm going to go back to my InDesign, and I'm going to paste that in using the type tool. I'm going to put it down here because I think, having it too close to the logo, especially contact copy, you just want to kind of separate that out a bit. Typically, when you do menu designs, you can see that the contact information is maybe at the bottom in a typical situation. You can add bullet points in there. I just did an option 8 if you're on a Mac, and just pull these, space it apart with that. I would make this no bigger than 12 points. I know it seems small, but think about a menu. You're not really looking at it like a poster from afar. You're looking at it, equal distance from your arm to your eyes. So it's like, what, 7, 8 inches. So it doesn't have to be that big. All right. The next thing is making sure you have alignment set. I have this centered. I'm going to bring it towards the bottom, and I'm going to give it just enough margin space here to so that it's framed very well. Now, remember how I said pay attention in your discussion about hierarchy? So hierarchy can be created in different ways. It could be created in like a focal point. So this texture image and the logo pretty much have the first, enhanced, emphasized hierarchy. It's the most important thing you see first, and that's exactly what I want. So the logo doesn't have to be huge, but it's contrasted well enough. It's kind of in the center here. The focal point brings you in. It's a textured background that bleeds on all 4 sides. So you see the focal point, you see the texture, you see the logo mark, and then you go down to the bottom. So that's hierarchy. That's telling the viewer where to look first, where to look second, where to look third. And then maybe what we're doing here is just changing the color of the type to create hierarchy. So maybe just changing this to, say, a yellow. See, like we'll kind of make it pop a little bit. It's such a thin font, it's really hard to kind of see, but it's a different color. So you could create hierarchy that way. Okay, the next, so, once you're done with your cover, you don't have to have your logo up here. You could, whatever works for you, just make sure that the logo is not too big and you have your elements aligned. The cover should be very simple. It shouldn't have a lot of imagery on it, just something that kind of, ties in with what you have on the inside. You have similar things going on. And then the back cover, I would just go ahead and copy exactly what you did on the back, or I'm sorry, on the front. And maybe in this instance, I don't have that gradient. I have more of a darker background. And let's go ahead and see what I need on the back cover as far as copy is concerned. So let me stop sharing and share my. All right, so I need menu, oh, this is up here, sorry. I need the address, and I need the call reservations and the web address. So just copy that, go back to my InDesign file. I need it in that same font, so I'm just going to go ahead and drag out a copy box. Make it white for my purposes. Make it 12 points. Why did this look so different than the other one? Hold on. Did I have it set at the right font here? Terrafins thin. Oh, that's why. Super, super thin. I probably wouldn't use thin here, but just because the instructions say that, that's what I'm going to go with. Same thing here. I'll just kind of do the same thing that I did on the front with where I position it. I centered it. The alignment's the same, just kind of keeping it very similar. So let's see, where are we at properties wise? So I'm sitting at 10.26 on the Y coordinates. I'm seeing that up here. So I want to make sure that this is sitting on that same 10.36. All right, perfect. And then maybe what I want to do here is do the opposite of what I did on the front, where I'm making it darker like I did in the beginning, or more contrast. I'm using that gradient blend. Now I have to pull my text object arrange from the front. And there we go. Perfect. So that kind of pops, and then I can go in and say, you know, maybe the web address becomes that yellow color that we made before. The web address. Just kind of give a pop of color. Perfect. So that would be the front, the inside, and then the back cover. Now you don't have to create a style, paragraph style for any of these elements on page 1 and 4, because, you know, it's kind of limited on how you're using that. The inside's more important because you have more information that you're repeating. So you don't necessarily have to create a style sheet. All right. And then when you're done, we're going to do just kind of like the same thing we did before. Let's see, there's your, let's see here, cancel your checklist, where I'm kind of double checking here. Export all pages as a quality PDF. Okay, so we're not doing a packaged folder or packaged file and zipping it. We're actually just going to go and do a file, Adobe PDF, high quality print. And we're going to save that to the desktop. Well, I am. You guys are going to have a folder. And it doesn't say anything about bleeds, so you don't have to worry about that. If you wanted to show your bleeds, you would click crop marks and bleed marks here. And then, you know, obviously you'd have your bleed set up, but I'm not going to do that because it doesn't call for it. And then spreads has to be checked if you want your spreads, I'm sorry, your document to be spreads. Now you can change this to a different range or all pages. I'm just going to hit spreads, export. And then when you export it, just make sure you double click on it and take a look at it, just so you know it looks good. You know, it looks pretty good. All right, so here's my PDF. Let me zoom out a little bit. And make sure you're in view, single page view when you view this. So there's the cover. There's the inside, and that's a spread because I chose spread. So make sure you're hitting spread, and that's the back cover. So when you export your PDF, make sure you're choosing spread so that you're seeing page 2 and 3 as a spread, as a printer spread side by side. And then you would submit that as your final project. And like I said, I will be giving you feedback on your pages 2 and 3. So as you're creating your cover and your back cover, once you get that feedback, make those changes, because when you submit this on Sunday before midnight, you want to make sure those changes are implemented from page 2 and 3. I'm going to try to get this to you as soon as possible. I've been kind of crazy busy today with grading. But in the next day or 2, I'm going to have feedback for you guys so that you guys can get started with that. All right. I hope this helps.